Prophet, his immaculate progeny Ahlul Bayt, especially his daughter Fatima Zahra, Salamullah alayha, recite salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Our topic was a glimpse to Sermon of Fatima Zahra, Salamullah alayha, after a transgression that was committed against her and a gift that was given to her by the Holy Prophet was taken away from her forcefully. She came to the Holy Mosque of the Prophet in Medina, and today we have that sermon, that speech available. And tonight and inshallah on Saturday, I'll do my best to learn something from that teaching and from that message. Because Imam Ali salam has a beautiful saying, as he says, men are known with their words and speech. And Imam said, indeed human beings are hidden beneath their tongue. So if you want to know somebody, one of the best ways to do that is to listen to what they say, the content of their speech and words. So this sermon is that opportunity for all of us to learn and to become familiar with who Fatima Zahra Salamullah alayha was and what we can learn from her. Last night we discussed the first lesson, and that was the importance of Quran in this sermon. She mentions that literally she addressed the companions of the Prophet, said, what you've done to Quran is that you throw it behind your back. You ignored it. The way you treat me, the way you treat Ali alayhi salam, the way you treat Muslim Ummah is not according to standards of Quran. That's why you need a reminder. Because the standards of Quran is qualities, piety. The best of people are the most pious, the most God-conscious of people. But in the selection of leadership, people, Muslims, so-called companions, they went with the standards of Arab culture, which was age. We choose who's one of the eldest. And Hazrat said, Fatima Zahra said that with making those the standards and criteria for selection of leadership, you betrayed Quran. And she says, Quran is very clear. If you're saying that we don't understand what Quran says, probably Quran didn't say that. Hazrat mentioned, Umuruhu wadiha. The commands of Quran are very clear. If your excuse is that Quran is not straightforward, the rules, the laws, the prohibitions, the warnings, the signs, a'lamuhu bahira, everything in Quran is clear. So you don't have excuse for that, but you ignored it. And then she mentions a few verses. I mentioned in this sermon, she mentions 20 verses of Quran. So I'm not going to repeat the first lesson from last night regarding the significance of Quran and regarding how we can advance our knowledge and understanding of Quran through tafsir, especially from the teachings of Ahlul Bayt. But tonight is one of those verses that she mentioned, is verse 102 of Surah Al-Imran, Surah number 3, verse 102, which I recited at the beginning of the speech, which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Ya ayyuhal ladhina amanu, O believers, O people who have faith, ittaqullah haqqa tuqatih. You must attain piety and God consciousness. You must fear God. But this is not a new ayah. There's similar ayah like that Allah said, have taqwa, be pious. But in this ayah, Allah says, haqqa tuqatih. Be pious the way you should be pious. Fear God the way you should fear God. In other words, try to find the best form of taqwa. Try to attain the highest stages of taqwa. Haqqa tuqate, what it worth, what it truly means. That's point number one of this ayah. And second, وَلَا تَمُوتُنَّ إِلَّا وَأَنْتُمْ مُسْلِمُونَ. Make sure death doesn't meet you, doesn't devour you, except and unless that you're submitted to God. And in other words, make sure that your life is wrapped on good note. Is known as husna aqibat in Islamic terminology, having a good ending. In other words, a lot of people, they start good, strong. In the middle, probably they're still good, but toward the end, they start losing faith. And in this ayah, Allah said, don't be one of those, that they lose their faith at the end. Make sure, especially when death comes, when the moment of departure comes, that is the moment that everything else will be defined based on that. And that's the two lessons for tonight. Haqqa taqwa, this the way that we should be pious. That worth and value of piety and taqwa. And secondly, about the well and let's say finishing and dying with submission. Departing this life with submission to God. Because we have a lot of examples in the history of people who at the beginning they were very strong in their belief, but for some reason they lost it. For some reason. Birsisaya Abid was one of the well-known worshippers of Bani Israel, that for years he was a man of God. But by the end, over one simple temptation, he lost everything. He died with submission to shaitan. And examples in the Muslim Ummah is no exception. Habiba is the daughter of Abu Sufyan. She converted to Islam. And of course, as you can imagine, her father, one of the most prominent enemies of Islam, it was a very important and at the same time dangerous message to his enemies, that his daughter became Muslim. So the first thing he planned was to destroy and kill his daughter. So eventually she ran away, she came to Prophet, and Rasulullah helped her to migrate to Habasha. You know, a group of Muslims, they migrated to Habasha in Africa. They took refuge. The Christian king was kind enough to give him the protection. And after years, they came back. But one of the leaders of that immigrant group was Ja'far ibn Abi Talib, Imam Ali's brother. So Habiba got married to another Muslim. The daughter of Sufyan married another Muslim and they migrated to Habasha. But when they came back, she came alone. She returned just by herself. And she told Rasulullah, Ya Rasulullah, my husband, after we went to Habasha, after a while he started drinking. He became an alcoholic. And by the end of his life, he left Islam. He said, I'm not Muslim anymore. And he died a drunk and a non-Muslim. This is an example of people that the daughter of an evil person and a misguided and an opponent of the Prophet maintained her faith. And somebody so-called who believed in Islam not by force, by his own will, eventually gave up on his faith. There is no guarantee for people maintaining their iman. That's why you always ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to do not abandon us. Ilahi la takilni ila nafsi tarfata aynin abada. My Lord, do not abandon me by myself to myself, even as short as a blink of an eye. Because I don't know what could happen in that matter, in that short amount of time. So remember again, this sermon, when Fatima Zahra came to Masjid, one thing I want to say, in the tradition mentioned how did she come to Masjid. We have that the way even she dressed is mentioned in tradition. So there's two type of clothing mentioned, that when Fatima Zahra came to mosque, she wore what's known as khimar, and then jalabib is the plural of it. In Quran also mentioned jalbab. So in Arabic, these two type of clothing, khimar is a long scarf. It's something that covers not only the head but also the shoulders. And jalbab is a type of dress that covers the entire body, all the way from the top up to, we have to the toes. That's the way she dressed, modestly, covered. And even then, she was surrounded by other maharim, family members, relatives, women, and she went with a group inside the mosque. Because sometimes modesty is being defined as something that has to be in the mind, in the eyes, in the heart, which it is true. We should have modesty in all those forms. But also when it comes to prevention is important as well. I've heard it so many times. It's not a justification for people being abusive or, God forbid, disrespecting women. But we have people who are ill and sick. You do what you can in order to protect yourself. That's the way Fatima Zahra Salamullah at the time did. And then once she came to Masjid, as I mentioned, she did not start talking about Fadak and the piece of land being taken away from her. She went to the roots of the problem. Sometimes I say to people, learn from this to your daily life. I've seen people, couples, fight over things without talking about the root of the problem. So when somebody's checking your phone, your spouse checking your phone, instead of fighting over why you checked my phone, focus on the root of it, which is the lack of trust. Why the mistrust exists? Why is that? Because mistrust shows itself in so many different forms. One of them is that. Same thing comes to details. Sometimes people are looking for excuse to argue. Sometimes you have to attack and it's very uncomfortable, by the way. It's not an easy thing. People don't want to admit there is a root, there is something, hidden and underneath, buried deep down. No, it's not just this problem. And I said, no, there's always a reason. Even our children's actions have reasons. Child psychologists, actually, their job is to study your child's behavior. There is a reason even for their tantrums and anger and all that. There is a reason. Don't say they're children, they're teenagers. I've heard this so many times. Teenagers are teenagers, You cannot know what's going on in their mind. And I said that's a very simple way to make it simple for yourself, because then you should not think about it or try to find what's the problem, what's the issue. You just make it a simple justification and you move on with your life. So Fatima Zahra attacked the cause, the root. She began talking about Quran, and then she went and talked about Taqwa, and then submission. These two things. Piety and submission. Because Taqwa and piety is not about just saying I believe. That's what we know as Islam. When somebody becomes a Muslim, you say the Shahada, the statement of belief, 2 sentences, and you will be a Muslim, and you have to be treated like a Muslim. But to have taqwa, it's a lifestyle. It's the way you live. Pious means somebody that has, the word taqwa means self-restraint, self-control. So somebody who has taqwa is capable of controlling themselves, not others. Muttaqeen cannot control others. You try to help them, you try to do amr bil ma'ruf, you try to advise them, but you can't control them. But what they have control of, or at least do their best to have, is their own action. That's what taqwa is about. Withholding. And that's the focus of Fatima to Zahra, that yes, you said Shahada and you're Muslim. But what Allah is telling us after you become a Muslim, after you have Iman, is to have taqwa the way you should. Ya ayyuha alladhina amanu taqullah haqqa tuqatih. Remind them of this ayah of Quran, that your responsibility was not done after you said, I'm a Muslim, after you said, I believe in you, O Messenger of God. Your journey just began. You're supposed to advance, you're supposed to be better. But what I see is that not only you did not get better, you reversed. You went backward. Why you forgot it? And it's a lesson for us too. Alhamdulillah, I don't eat pork and I don't drink. That's the cap of taqwa for me. I'm talking about myself. And in my mind, I think, the highest status of heaven should be for me. Why? Because I don't eat pork and I don't drink. My highest quality and value is that I don't cheat on my spouse. That's a great quality. Me not being horrible becomes the new great. And why? Because, it's easier. It's easier, right? It's much easier to justify. And I'm not saying that, we should have self-guilt and hate ourselves. This is not what we're talking about. This is our ambition to be better. The same way when it comes to dunya, even in a materialistic mindset, in a very, very, accepted culture around us, they said, you have to grow your business, you have to get better at what you do, you have to update yourself. In the same mentality that you have to enjoy yourself, they tell you when it comes to your dunya, you have to get better. Right? Always, you hear it all over the place. You hear it in school, in college. They tell our children that in public schools. When you go to your job, you hear that. It's always about getting better, growing your business, planning, getting better. But when it comes to spirituality, it's like that, try to stay with the minimum. As long as you're not a horrible person, that's it. That's why people said, why should I even cry? What repentance we're talking about? There are not that many like that, by the way. But I've heard people say, even they come and debate and they have a conversation that I know you talk about the greatest weapon that the people have before God is their tears, but I have no reason to cry. I didn't jump over someone's wall or fence. I didn't steal. I didn't kill anyone. And they list all the horrible things that somebody can do and say, that's it. Why should I repent? I'm a decent person. When in reality we see the messengers of God cry before Allah and they didn't do any of that. Imam Zain al-Abidin is going to sajda for hours, not because God forbid he committed any great sin. It's because you understand that so many blessings that I've been blessed with, I don't deserve it. And these tears is that, Ya Allah, I've been not grateful. I wasn't. What did I do? And how much I've done to show my appreciation to the blessings that I've received. That's a tear that they have. And they've done so much. Their concern are over much more, as I said. Their standards is much higher. And that's what Quran said, حَقَّ تُقَاتِ. Try to attain that kind of taqwa. To make it simple, Quran says use example. And I'm going to use an example to help you understand. When we talk about piety and God consciousness, the way we have to, one simple example, imagine if you're, everybody who's here, you drove here, right? You drove or somebody gave you a ride. So in California, that's probably one of the best example I can give. So when you're driving, the road in front of you are one of these few possibilities or options. Number one is that you have a straightforward, highway. It's very clear, no curves, no turns. Just put it on cruise and that's it. You just go. That's one kind of road in front of you when you drive. A second type of road is a road that has a lot of curves, a lot of turns. That's one. Maybe, in those roads, there's a bit of uphill or downhill. So in each of these driving condition, you have to be aware of certain problem that could happen. So if you're going in a road that has a lot of curves and, as I say, ups and down, my question to you is, what's the danger for the driver? What is it? What kind of danger, what kind of possibility, what kind of threat is out there for a driver who's driving in a road with a lot of turns, ups and down? Imagine if you're driving in some of these hills, slipping, falling asleep. Usually in turns you don't fall asleep because you're paying so much attention. In a straightforward road, that's the way it's known as, I think, road hypnosis, that's what they call it. Literally is that when you're driving in the same road and those lines, you see it over and over, is a possibility of you falling asleep. But in the turns and in the hills, you don't fall asleep. The danger is that you slip, you go too fast, you're not able to match, that your speed doesn't match the turn. So the dangers are not the same. Taqwa is about that awareness. In life is exactly the same situation. Sometimes in life we have a straight path in front of us. Everything is going well. My work is there, I'm making enough money, my health is well, and I'm doing fine. No turn. It's just straightforward and everything, cruising without any issue. The danger in that kind of life is sleeping. What we know as ghafla, forgetfulness. That you start forgetting what's the purpose of life. Everything is going well. With that comes ignoring what's happening around you. That's why Quran said, إِنَّ الْإِنسَانَ طَغَى أَرْرَآهُ اسْتَغْنَى. Rebellious of human being starts as soon as he or she feels satisfied. Istighna, ghina is when I feel I don't need anything. I'm fulfilled. With that comes rebellion. With that comes rebellion. So that's one issue in that kind of life. And in our life, there are phases. There's always like this. There are moments that everything is stable, everything is going well, and then we have the other type of roads, other type of phase of life, which is our ups and downs. The uphill are difficult things to do. That's the way that the car needs an extra strength, right? Especially how much weight and how much luggage you have, the more difficult it is to go uphill. In life is the same thing. The more sins if somebody carry with, is always difficult to go uphill in the moment of test. When you want to give khums, is one of those uphills. When you want to wake up for morning prayers, that's one of those uphills. Nobody have uphill for, Maghrib namaz. Uphill is the morning one. Right? Uphill is for somebody, dealing with na-mahram. These are uphills. And we have that Shaitan said to Prophet Nuh alayhi salam, that the three moments, the uphills of life, I will be there waiting for you guys, for a human being. The three situations. One of them, Shaitan said to Nuh alayhi salam, is that when you're passing judgment, when you want to judge. It's an uphill. It's very difficult to be fair, to be just. I'm there to make you fail. Second one, that I will be there to make sure that you will be tested, is when you're angry. That's an uphill. Or it could consider it downhill as well, because it's as soon as you go, it's much easier to go and destroy yourself. With the anger comes that danger. It's not a straight way. I'll be there waiting. And the third one is when you're alone and tempted with a stranger. Temptations. The lust is easy. There has, faculties to work. One of them is that temptation, and in the moment is an opportunity for you to express temptation. In public, usually, and when your wife is standing, you're not going to, unless you're such a horrible, I don't know, unless you're gone, mentally gone, you will not be doing something in front of your wife. So taqwa is to remember, haqqa tuqate is that in every stage of life have taqwa. Because some people have taqwa only in hardship. When they have somebody ill in the family, they come to Masjid, they do their prayers. When they're applying for, medical school or college or job, they become such muttaqi people, right? Please keep me your du'as. I make this nazr, I make that, give that sadaqah and charity. As soon as they get what they want, disappear. It's their choice, by the way. Allah is not losing anything. They're the one losing it. Because it's interesting, it's like when you are investing, let's say in the stock market, I'm not encouraging anyone to do investment. That's not my field. I'm using as an example. Let's say if you're investing in a stock market in a specific company that is profitable. It's been working and you get profits. What's the reason for you to stop investing in that? What? Unless it's a stop being profitable, or you see some, lack of stability or some news or something that could cause the loss of profit, you will still keep investing. People who make a nazar with God and make charity and they get what they want, I don't understand what they give up. That's one thing, but at the same time, I said it's been profitable. It's been a good business with God. Allah gave them what they wanted. That's why in taqwa, it's always important to understand that if life is going well, don't say, okay, there's no taqwa need for, is needed for this stage. Because the issue at that moment is rebellion. This sense of imagining that I'm God. I have money, I have health, everything is going well. Why should I even care for religion or God or spirituality? It's interesting, a lot of people, as death comes, spirituality comes with it. It's not because, death has that religion and death are so. No, it's because as death approaches us, we remember that we're not in charge. We're not the God that we thought we were. Science is not the God that we thought it was. What it does, death helps us to see the truth of life. How vulnerable we are. Not to hate life, not to be depressed about it, to appreciate it the way it should be. That's what haqqa tuqati is about. Remember the example. Different stages of life, that awareness needed to be there. And in every stage there is a possible threat. They're not the same. With the stability comes the danger of being ungrateful, the danger of forgetting. With the difficulty comes the danger of giving up, hopelessness. If somebody has difficulty comes, they stop and say, okay, there's no point. Why should I even bother? Taqwa is that force that helps us in every stage. Is the master key. It's not just one key for one like. It works for every like. That's supposed to be haqqa tuqate. That's the way it should be. Exercise. Let me say a hadith. Remember I said there's one style of tafsir. interpretation that use riwayah, right, traditions, to understand the ayah better. And then I go to the second, which is about submission and finish, inshallah. So the riwayah is that somebody came to Imam Sadiq alayhi salatu wasalam, recited salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad, and asked regarding this verse 102 of Surah Al Imran. And he asked, O son of the Prophet, Ya ibn Rasulullah, what's the meaning of this haqqa tuqatih, this form of taqwa that is worth it to be established in life? That should be the way that we should fear God. How is that possible? And Imam Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, haqqa tuqatih, this absolute status of taqwa you're looking for, are achievable through three rules in life. This is Imam Sadiq's answer to the ayah. Said number one is to obey God and don't disobey Him. Yu'ti wa la yu'sa. If Allah said this, you understand, and you understand what is the disobedience, and you understand that as well. That's the way you achieve taqwa. Everything else, love God in your heart, and do this and be nice, all are good. But if you disobey God in any form, is a disobedience. You can justify it, oh, it's the 21st century, it's 2020. When you commit a sin, it's a sin. That's it. In the past, people commit a sin in their own way. Now is, I don't know, somebody can commit a sin remotely. You're sitting at the comfort of your house and you can commit a sin. The same way good things are easier to achieve. If you want to read Quran, you don't need to leave even the comfort of your bed. You can read it. Sin is also easily accessible. In the past, somebody wants to commit a sin, they have to, beside imagination and all that, they have to go outside and do something. Even when it comes to haram look, right? But now you don't have to. It's just you have a much easier accessible with your thumb. That's it. All you need. So that's one. Obey Allah and stay away from disobedience. Number two, remember God and don't let forgetfulness take over. That's what haqqa tuqati is about. To constantly be aware of presence of God. That's what it is. One of the names of Quran is dhikr. Dhikr means a reminder, remembrance. Remember Allah. Because when we do bad things, the last thing we remember is God. The last thing you remember is God. The same way people who were oppressing Fatima to Zahra, the last thing they remember was God. But they wouldn't do that. To remember and stay away from forgetfulness. This is what Imam Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam is saying. Recite another salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Just these two as an example that how these also prepare us for the third one. The third one, Imam said, is to exercise shukr and stay away from kufran or kufr. In other words, be grateful and stay away from ungratefulness. These three things are haqqa taqwa, is highest level of taqwa, which they're headlines. They have, they are the subject that they have a lot of details under them. To obey God, stay away from disobedience. To remember Allah, stay away from forgetfulness and ghafla. To be grateful and stay away from kufran. These are not simple things to achieve. Because each of them have very, very small details, precise details. To be grateful is not only about to say Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen after food, is one of it. To be grateful is to be grateful to your parents, to be grateful to your teacher, To be grateful is to give charity, give zakat, give homes. To be grateful is to spend some part of your day and time for a good cause, worthy cause. These are gratefulness. Just say thank you is not enough. It's just a beginning. Same thing to other three as I mentioned. So this is the first. From this ayah, Fatima talks about haqq taqwa, the highest status of piety. The way that we must and we should be God conscious. And the second piece, 2 points tonight, just remember. The second piece, فَلَا تَمُوتُنَّ إِلَّا وَأَنْتُمْ مُسْلِمُونَ. Don't let death meet you, devour you, take over you, unless you're submitted to God. This Islam is not just, again, religion, it's submission to God. It means you believe in God and you die with that belief. And I gave you example of people who failed. And we have even, till this day, I said there was a time, I said, Sheikh, please pray for our youth. Our youth are in danger, which is true. There's so many different form of threats out there. So many different form of doubts, skepticism, just disbelief, nihilism. What's the point? You know, I predicted coming of TikTok, by the way. If you go back to my lecture before this app becomes what it is today, I said, I promise you Instagram is not the end of it. The attention span of kids are getting shorter. If you look at TikTok's format, it's a very, very convoluted, complicated piece of thing at the same time. Loud music usually, smart snaps of videos, and then you have one message or one funny thing in that short amount of few seconds. Instagram, you have to wait. There's a few seconds. Usually people talking. Our youth are dealing with a lot of pressures that I didn't I didn't face. So many of us didn't face. It's not a thing. It's not an issue. So I'm not, when I say this, it's not like that I'm praising myself or praising you. There's nothing to praise about. Again, it's not my interest. It wasn't something that was interesting to us, or at least didn't exist at the time. But this generation, 8 years old, 10 years old, they have two different, they have a fake one, they have a real one, they have one for their parents, they have one for their friends. And they have to prove themselves. It's a 24/7 job to make themselves, accepted in that circle. You have to produce something. They're directors. I feel bad for them. They have to direct, write. They are, literally the cinematographer. All of them is by themselves. They put so much creativity in it. And they think, I just do it because it's fun. But the question is, they're producing it for someone. And if somebody doesn't like it, how are they going to feel about it? If they don't feel bad about it, then I accept they did it for themselves. They liked it. It was fun. But if they do it and then they wait for people to give likes, they're not doing it for themselves. They're doing it for that acceptability, socially accepted in that circle. So I agree with that we have to be concerned about the youth. But my point is that those people who tell me about the youth, they don't know that we have the same amount of problem with elders. We have elders who are losing faith. Elders who stop wearing hijab, elders who stop praying, elders who stop caring for the family, start changing drastic changes in their lifestyle. They start calling 40 years of being a good father, a good mother, a waste of time. That's what husn aqibat, well ending, is about. Imagine what happened to somebody that they look at their past and they've been a good father and a good mother, a good person, and they call that waste, and they become this person you don't even recognize anymore. You feel bad for them. And that's the issue. That you say, oh, if the masjid is for the youth. No. Masjid must be for everyone. Everybody who feel that they are safe. Even me as a sheikh, if I feel there's no threat for me, nothing gonna happen to me. That's the biggest threat. For somebody to feel that there is no possibility for you to be misguided, tempted. That's why it's important to say this. فَلَا تَمُوتُنَّ إِلَّا وَأَنْتُمْ مُسْلِمُونَ. And ask Allah for that. Ask Allah for husn aqibah, a well ending, a blessed departure. That whenever this journey of life is going to end, I'm going to finish it on a good note. I ask Allah for that. Because I don't know when that could be. Because a lot of us, when the moment of sin comes, I said, okay, I know it's wrong, I know it's a sin, but next month I'll be different, I'll repent. I've heard elders saying to their grandchildren, don't wear hijab now. Inshallah, when you're 50 like me, wear hijab. I've heard it. I've heard people say to their 18-year-old, don't worry about namaz and prayer too much. Enjoy yourself. Have fun. It's like praying is a torture. When they say that advice, enjoy yourself, it hurts me because you put this message in their mind that is a torture for you to pray, so go have fun. Why yoga and everything else is so much fun, meditation is so much fun. When it comes to prayers, you call it's like it's a torture, God forbid. Some of us, we get used to receiving, repackaging our own things to us. Just change the name, make it a bit more, luxurious or at least socially accepted, and then we're fine. I'm not religious, but I'm spiritual, right? What's that? What's the spirit? But we like it. We means people like me again. I'm referring to people that unfortunately we change with our environment. We become chameleons, that we change colors as our surrounding changes. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, inshallah, for these two great, important teachings of Quran, which Fatimatu Zahra reminded them, people of the time of the Fatimatu Zahra, and us, which is the importance of understanding what taqwa is about. To don't be satisfied with minimal, basic level of taqwa. Try to advance. Be greedy when it comes to taqwa and piety and God consciousness. When it comes to good, Allah said, As-sabighun as-sabighun, ulaika al-muqarrabun. When it comes to doing something good, compete with one another. Rob one another of doing something good. Said, I want to be the one doing it. Rather than say, oh, you do it. You should be doing it. Compete for it. We ask Allah for that mentality, for that spirit, for that ambition, for taqwa. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to bless us with blessed departure, with husna aqibat in dunya, and inshallah, shafa'ah and intercession of Rasulullah, intercession of the Ahlul Bayt in the Day of Judgment. Let's say salam to Fatima Zahra, salamullah alayha. May Allah inshallah once again give us the tawfiq to be za'ir. No. Inshallah, we do it Saturday. May Allah inshallah give us the tawfiq to be visitors of Fatima Zahra, inshallah. Although we don't know the exact location, but what we know for sure is in the city of Madinah. The two well-known opinions are either in Baqi Cemetery or is in Prophet's Mosque, is next to Prophet's buried. Either way, the city of Madinah, it's the city that encapsulated so many blessed individuals. Holy Prophet is the head of them, is the master of all. And then we have Fatima Zahra, we have Imam Hassan alayhi salam, we have Imam Zain al-Abidin, Imam al-Baqir, Imam al-Sadiq. May Allah give us the tawfiq to be visitors of Madinah Nabi, inshallah. Assalamu alayki ya Fatima Zahra ya bint Muhammad يا قرة عين الرسول يا سيدتنا ومولاتنا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيهة عند الله اشفعي لنا عند الله يا وجيهة عند الله اشفعي لنا. Last days of the life of Fatima Zahra, Asma bint Umays. She is the wife of Ja'far ibn Abi Talib, Imam Ali's brother. She is the woman who is helping Fatima Zahra with her final days. Look at the love of a mother to her children. We have that as Fatima Zahra felt that these are the last moments of her life, she looked at Asma bint Umays and said, Asma, take my children away from me. Sheikh Abbas Ghumi mentioned, said probably she did it because she didn't want her children to watch her. So we have that Asma took Zainab and Kulthum to the house of Bani Hashims. And Imam al-Hassan and Imam Hussein were sent also to the mosque of the Prophet. And Fatima Zahra is now alone with Asma. So she looked at Asma bint Umays and said, Asma, you leave as well. After a while, call me. If I answer you, you can come and enter the house, enter the room. But if I didn't respond, go and call Ali alayhi salam and tell him to prepare my burial. Ya Fatima Zahra, you cared so much for your orphans at that moment. And we have that Imam Ali alayhi salam says that when I washed the body of the Prophet, Rasulullah had a shirt on. That after his burial, I kept that shirt. This is the shirt of the best of creation. Is a source of blessing. It's tabarruk. Is a shirt that he prayed with. Is a shirt that revelation was revealed when he was wearing that. So I kept that shirt. But Imam alayhi salam said, I made sure that Fatima did not see this shirt. It will remind her of her father, and because of the deep connection and attachment that she had to Rasulullah, it will upset her. We even have that Bilal, after Rasulullah's departure, he didn't recite azan. Until one day Fatima Zahra sent someone to Bilal, said, ask Bilal to recite adhan for me. And Bilal first resisted and said, no, I promise that after the Prophet this voice will not raise again. It will be just for myself. I will not do it publicly because Prophet asked me to do it publicly. Fatima Zahra said, the daughter of the Prophet is asking you. And we have that in the middle of the adhan, he accepted, he started doing the adhan. By the time he reached Ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah, Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ala Muhammad. As Fatima Zahra heard the name of the Prophet from the voice of the reciter and the mu'adhin of the Prophet, she fainted. She fell unconscious and people came to Bilal. Hassan and Hussein ran to Bilal and said, Bilal, please stop. And Imam Ali alayhi salam said, I did the same thing with the shirt of the Prophet. I make sure I keep it away from Fatima. Until the last days of the life of Fatima, she looked at me and said, Ya Ali, I know you're keeping the shirt of my beloved father, Rasulullah. bring me the shirt that I missed the scent and fragrance of my father. Sallallahu alayki ya madluma ya Fatima Zahra ya Habibat Rasulullah. Amir al-Mu'mineen brought the shirt of Prophet to Fatima Zahra. Fatima Zahra placed the shirt of Rasulullah on her eyes. She's smelling the fragrance of the Rasulullah on the shirt. As she felt all the memories came back to Fatima, she began to cry. Amir al-Mu'mineen was next to Fatima, comforting Fatima Zahra. But no musibah and tragedy is like the tragedy of Hussein. On that moment when Fatima Zahra saw the shirt of her father, she wasn't able to control herself. She began to cry. But al-Masa'ib Zainab, on the eve of Ashura, when she came to look and search for the body of Hussein, she's looking at the bodies that they have no head on their bodies. Ya Rasulallah, how can I find my brother? How can I recognize the body of my brother? We have in tradition, as Abu Abdullah was leaving for the battle, he called her sister Zainab. He said to his sister Zainab, bring me an old shirt, because these enemies have no mercy. They will steal everything. Maybe when they see this old shirt on my body, they will not remove it from my body. I don't want my body to be naked after I die. Ya Rasulallah, when Zainab came to see the body of Hussein, the enemies they didn't even have the mercy to leave the old shirt on the body of Hussein. As Zainab saw the body of Hussein, she cried, Ya Rasulallah, هذا حسينك مرمل بالدماء مقطع الأعضاء. وألا لعنة الله على القوم الظالمين وسيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون. يا رب الحسين بحق الحسين اشف صدر الحسين بظهور الحجة.